Have you ever finished a book and thought, wait, that's it? Yeah, me too. Hey, what's up, you guys? Riley G here, and for today's video is going to be 3 book talk books that I have read that are either underhyped, appropriately hyped, or overhyped. Plus one book that I think that I'm reading right now that I'm probably going to DNF, and it might surprise you what it might be. So this book is a YA book. It's about a girl named Brie Matthews who discovers this group of people that are descended from King Arthur's court, and after witnessing some kind of magical attack on at school at UNC Chapel Hill, she has to join this group and figure out what's going on. Now, this book I've seen recommended a little bit. It's definitely underhyped, I think. A lot of people do recommend it. I've seen TikTok videos about people recommending it and giving you more of a better synopsis than I can. It's been a little bit since I've read this book, but I do agree this is like fully hyped, a really good book to read. Like I said, it's a YA book. There's a tiny bit of romance in there, kind of like, cutesy lovey-dovey scenes in here and there. But other than that, it's pretty much like sort of even kind of like a mystery of what's going on at the school. Some, like I said, a magical attack happens, so they're trying to figure out what's going on, and everything revolves around the group that is descended from King Arthur's court. So like you have certain people that are descended from this lineage. This person is descended from this person, and they awaken their powers, and the closer they are to King Arthur, then something big is supposed to happen, like the end of the world or pretty much something like that. Like I said, it's been a minute, but that's how I described Legendborn, and obviously it's a really good book. I do recommend it. It's not that long of a book. I think it was around 400 to 500 pages ish, so it's a pretty good read, and I do definitely recommend it. And I think it's definitely worth the hype that I keep seeing on TikTok. And as far as the rating goes, I give Legendborn 4 out of 5. I think it was pretty good. Spiciness, like a 1, if maybe 0.5. Like I said, it's a YA book, so there's not going to be anything spicy in there. Maybe like a kiss, which is a slight spoiler, but other than that, there's no spiciness to it. Like I said, it's a YA book, so you're pretty good on that front. The next book that Book Talk has had me read is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. So I've read this book I probably in high school or something like that, or maybe early on in college. It's been a few years, but I decided to reread it recently, and I gotta say it is definitely worth the hype. The first couple chapters pretty much leaves you in a heartbreak already, and from then on it's just sort of like I sort of explain it as the Hunger Games, but a little bit more adultish, and set on Mars. That's the perfect example of what I say to people when I'm describing Red Rising. So it's definitely worth the hype. For emotional damage, it's pretty heavy. Like I said at the beginning, you're pretty much left heartbroken, and then sort of afterwards there's smaller heartbreaks here and there. As far as emotional damage, I give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. My overall rating definitely is a 5 out of 5. This is definitely one of the books that I would recommend to everybody. Like I said, it's kind of like the Hunger Games, but a little bit older, like maybe freshmen in colleges, like around there. Plus, it's set on Mars and there's space stuff and things like that. So, like I said, it's very interesting. So I do recommend this book, and it's definitely worth the hype that TikTok gives it. Now, the next book that I read because of TikTok is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this was actually my first romantasy book. I didn't know what I was getting into. I just heard it was really popular on Book Talk, so I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead and read it and see what it's about. And I'd say it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit overhyped, honestly. It was an interesting story. It was my first romantasy, so it was my first book getting into the realm of romantasy books. If you guys don't know what romantasy is, it's romance and fantasy all together. I think it was more romance-y than fantasy-wise, which I think is why I am putting it at a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I say it's a little bit overhyped because I think there's more emphasis on the romance part than the fantasy stuff going on. Obviously, there's things here and there, like I did cry at the end. If you know, you know, it's been my honor. So I did read the book. They left you with a really big cliffhanger. I have Iron Flame back here on my bookshelf. Don't know if I'm gonna read it or not, but I have it just in case if I do. But like I said, I give it a 3.5 overall rating. And spiciness, I think, probably a 2 out of 5. There are some spicy scenes. Some of the spicier scenes were more comedic spicy scenes. But overall, it was a really okay book. I think it's a little bit overhyped for what TikTok is giving it. I think there are much better romantic books out there. At least that's from what I'm hearing. But like I said, it was my first one. It's been my only one. But since then, I started reading more romantic books. So if you guys want more opinions on that or more recommendations, let me know down in the comments what you guys want. If you guys want me to make another video about romance books, because I do have some more recommendations. But yeah, so that's going to be the 3 books for recommended by Book Talk. Now for the most controversial take, and for my most controversial book that I have, it's going to be Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu. So I've only read about 4 chapters. I stopped on chapter 5, and like I said, it was a pretty interesting book, but I feel like maybe it just hasn't really gotten my attention. Like there's some things that I want to figure out, but that's just me being chismoso and trying to figure out like what's going on and things like that. But at the same time, it hasn't really hooked into it, so I might DNF this book. It might be my first DNF actually, even though I've read the Odyssey. That I wanted to DNF that book so bad, but me being a Taurus, I'm not gonna just give up on something. You know, like I pretty much have a grudge against the Odyssey at this point, so I just had to finish it. I had to see it through, so I think I might just finish Alchemized, maybe at the back of my mind, maybe for next year or something like that, because I do have my TBR list. If you guys want to see that, make sure to go follow my TikTok about my TBR list that I'm going to be finishing at the books that I will be finishing by the end of this year. So yeah, I think that's my most controversial one. I know it's super popular on Book Talk right now. It's still Alchemized. You know, there's the controversy behind that, which I have made a video on my TikTok too. I'm talking about it. But yeah, so those are my 3 books that are most hyped, overhyped, or underhyped because of a Book Talk. Plus my most controversial one, which was Alchemized, which, you know, I might DNF, mine might not, who knows. Maybe you guys can convince me down in the comments down below. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.